You're listening to an archived Cabral Concept podcast. After listening to this show, check out the most up-to-date podcasts available at stephencabral.com/podcasts or search directly on iTunes. And now, welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified naturopath and integrative health practitioner Dr. Stephen Cabral shares how he was diagnosed at the age of 17 with a life-altering illness and given no hope for recovery. It was only after studying and traveling all over the world did he discover how to combine ancient Ayurvedic healing practices with state-of-the-art naturopathic and functional medicine to fully rebalance the body and re-energize it with life. It's time to discover how to get well, lose weight, and finally feel alive again. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Cabral.
And today on this Weight Loss Wednesday show, I'm going to be teaching you how fiber can actually help you lose weight. Meaning, like, if you do nothing else and you simply add more fiber to your diet, which is very simple, you can get it through certain foods and you can get it through supplements, very, very inexpensively, can help you lose weight without doing anything differently. So let's get right into it today. So really, what is fiber? So fiber is found in certain carbohydrates. It's found in fruits. It's found in vegetables, it's found in grains, it's found in nuts, and it's found in legumes, basically beans. And so what it is it's made up of either a soluble fiber or it's made up of an insoluble fiber. And what soluble fiber is, or even before we get to the difference between soluble and insoluble fiber, is that fiber actually helps the transit time of food and carbohydrates and everything in your meal to slow down. So one of the things with weight gain or the inability to lose weight is sometimes people are just too hungry, right? They're hungry, they need to eat more food, they want to eat more food. And so having a meal that's packed with fiber actually slows the transit time of getting that food from your stomach, slowing it through the intestines, and it's allowing you to actually feel a little bit more satiated. And when you feel more satiated, then you're going to be less likely to want to eat sooner after that next meal. That's really, really important. So you want your stomach to feel full, not overly full. That's not a good thing for sure. But you want to feel satiated. You want to feel full. And that will send signals to your brain that you've eaten enough and you don't need to eat more. And that's one of the issues when people are so-called strict paleo in terms of eating like just meat at a meal. Meat's not going to contain any fiber. And so when you're having meat, maybe just a little bit of vegetables or something, that's just may not be enough fiber to actually help you feel full. Now, you can feel full from a slow transit from eating protein because protein can be hard to digest. But for the most part, you want to eat some type of fruits, vegetables, grains, nuts, or legumes to make you feel more satiated, and to also, this is a really big benefit, to slow that blood sugar spike. Meaning like when you eat food, especially carbohydrates, if there isn't fiber, we've heard about the glycemic index before, right? Well, that can spike your blood sugar. Meaning like certain foods are higher on the glycemic index, which means they raise your blood sugar faster and higher. So when you take in fiber with that meal, it actually blunts that blood sugar spike. It actually keeps it lower. Now, if your blood sugar is lower, you're going to most likely produce less insulin. And if you produce less insulin, you're going to be less likely to store more body fat. So you'll actually, basically, you won't store as much fat, even if you have the same amount of carbohydrates, because you're going to take in more fiber. It's going to slow that absorption into your bloodstream. Really, really important. So I just find, just that alone, that one little tip alone, making sure that you get in about 10 grams of fiber per meal if you do 3 main meals. But you overall for the day, and I'm going to go through the different specifics and specs, women really should be getting 30 plus grams of fiber. Men should be getting 40 plus grams of fiber. There's discrepancies there. It says like anywhere from 28 plus for women and 36 plus for men. There's some studies that say it should be more like 40 to 50 grams per day. What I'm saying is to you as I go through this today and I explain the differences between soluble and insoluble fiber is that if you're not taking in a lot of fiber right now, you're going to want to work up to the 40 grams a little bit slower, just so that you don't get any intestinal-based issues because your body's not used to taking in that much fiber. Even though it can be healthy for you, it just might not be ready for it. So let's talk about what's soluble fiber. Well, soluble fiber, just think about it. It has in it soluble, right? So it's like a solute, which means it can actually be broken down and dissolved. So if you were to put soluble fiber into some type of water or into your stomach, your digestive juices, it's going to break down. It's going to dissolve, and it's going to turn into like this liquid or this gel. And that's a nice thing because, again, that can trap some of the sugars and that can trap some of the fats. Now, it doesn't fully not allow you to absorb them. You still do absorb them. It's not magic. But it does allow for a little slower transit time. That is actually the same with alcohol as well. A little bit slower getting into the body. And I think that's really important. Again, when we're talking about having a cheat meal even, you want to have a little bit of fiber first. You want to be having some fiber with that meal to slow the absorption of these extra carbohydrates, especially if there's any processed ones or anything like that. Really, really important. Plus, soluble fiber does a great job at binding fat that can also help with people who have very high cholesterol. So one of the foods that I've mentioned before, and yes, it's not exactly paleo, but it has amazing health benefits, is oats. Gluten-free oats does a fantastic job at helping to balance cholesterol levels. It does a great job at lowering LDL, the so-called bad type of cholesterol, and it does an overall good job at balancing blood sugar. So it can be really, really nice, and it can be helpful even for people with diabetes when they want to get some carbohydrates in there so they don't get any type of ketoacidosis. They don't go into ketosis, which is not a healthy thing for diabetics. Okay, so really important. And again, we're going to get a lot of that from, I mentioned oats, beans, peas, barley, chia seeds. All of those things are great for soluble fiber. Now, one supplement that's super easy to use is psyllium husk. Just really important that you get a good brand that's been third-party tested so there's no mold. Mold tends to build up in some brands of psyllium husk, as well as heavy metals. And so you want to go with a good functional medicine brand. And then psyllium husk is a very inexpensive product in general. You can take anywhere from 4 to 5 grams per meal, and it will just give you the really tremendous benefit. Really, really great. Okay, now let's talk about insoluble fiber. Insoluble fiber, just like it sounds, it won't break down. It's insoluble. It will kind of turn into a sponge. It will start to absorb water. It will start to absorb different food-based products. And this, though, can be excellent for constipation. And it can be excellent for certain digestive-based disorders, maybe like IBS or maybe diverticulosis. But I'm also very cautious about using fiber, and anyone that I work with IBS, diverticulosis, Crohn's colitis, whatever it might be, just because fiber can also be very irritating to the gut. So I start off very slowly with increasing fiber per meal, and I usually don't go with things like nuts or seeds or anything like that. What I do is just little softer forms of it. I'll get to those in just a second. That aren't going to be maybe as irritating. But if you have constipation, insoluble fiber is just absolutely fantastic for that, to make sure that you are getting enough bulk, meaning like your stool has to be bulky enough for your intestines to also push it through. And insoluble fibers contained in corn, it's contained in wheat, it's contained in oats again, and that's why I like oats so much, is they cross both insoluble and soluble fiber. They are in nuts, they're in flax seeds, and they are in, I think I mentioned like the peels or the peels of apples and potatoes and the actual bran of wheat. I'm not an advocate of using wheat or gluten in anyone's diet. Every once in a while for a cheat meal, no big deal. It's inflammatory to everyone. Some people are just more sensitive to others. So, if you're not sensitive overall to wheat, you've done a food sensitivity test and your gliadin levels aren't high, your wheat levels aren't high, no problem. Okay, no problem. Every once in a while you want to have some wheat. Okay, I don't think it's as bad then. It's still inflammatory. It can still tweak and inflame your intestinal lining, your gut. So not a lot of it, but again, it does contain insoluble fiber, and that's what I want to bring you today. So overall, think of it like this. A little bit more soluble fiber for your weight loss, for your blood sugar regulating, for your cholesterol. A little bit more insoluble for your constipation-based issues or your digestive-based issues. But also, just keep in mind, if you're eating plenty of vegetables, you're getting fruits in your smoothie in the morning, fruit after your workout, you're having some legumes or some split mung beans or some lentils, maybe you do nuts every once in a while for a snack on the run, you put flax seeds in your smoothie. Again, you don't need to count your fiber. You don't need to count your grams per day. You just have to understand that if you're getting these foods, meaning if you're getting fruits in your smoothie, maybe in some veggies, and you're getting your good vegetables at each meal, maybe you're doing some good safe grains, then you're going to be getting your 25 to 40 grams of fiber per day, and that's going to really help out a lot. I just recommend is just make sure every meal contains some fiber, and I think that's the beneficial thing. The other thing is I always say, just keep a food journal for a week, maybe 5 days to 7 days, and you actually track your fiber intake, and a lot of apps already do this for you. And so you can say, okay, this is how I typically eat on a weekly basis. I don't need to track it every week. This is a normal week for me. Oh yeah, and I'm getting anywhere from let's say 27 to 50 grams of fiber per day, well, then you're doing great. But if you track that and you're only getting 10 grams to 15 grams, you should increase it, especially if your goal is to lose weight, especially if you're someone who's always hungry. Increase that fiber. Maybe take, again, 3 to 5 capsules of the psyllium husk during each meal, or after each meal. That would be totally fine to do. You can take them whenever you want. It's just fiber, and it will certainly help you out a lot. And so that is something that I do recommend, and it's something that I recommend to a lot of my wellness clients, and it's why I wanted to share it with you today. The other reason I wanted to bring up this topic of how fiber can help you lose weight is that we're just perpetually told in the media by certain gurus and experts and all of that it really is about calories in versus calories out. You need to exercise more, move more, and you need to eat less. And it's just not the truth. It's simply not the truth, because you could take in the same 1,500 calories a day, 2,000 calories a day, and if you're someone that takes in 40 grams of fiber versus someone that takes in 10 to 15, totally different absorption in blood sugar, totally different insulin spikes, different levels of movement inside the gut, and also, believe it or not, it can start to pull and bind estrogen-based hormones, things like that can actually lead to higher cortisol, lead to more inflammation, lead to water weight gain right out of your body by taking in fiber every single day. So do not trust the so-called media and the people who report these results. There's always some type of agenda. It's not just about calories in, calories out. It's not just about exercising more, moving more, and eating less. There is a real science to this, and hopefully I brought a little bit of that to you today. Thank you once again for tuning into the Cabral Concept. Ever wonder what the best sauna, blue blockers, sleep trackers, wake lights, salt lamps, or other health gadgets are? Or what about the top non-toxic mattresses, sheets, soaps, bath products, toothpaste, and cookware? Or would you like to know the cleanest choices for hemp parts, meal delivery services, supplements, and much more? I personally curated, researched, and now created a resource page of all of my top picks that continues to grow each week. These are the exact products I use in my own life, with my family, in my private practice, and they're the ones I trust. To find out all of my up-to-date recommendations and all the details, simply head on over to stephencabral.com/resources.